and welcome to another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. I'm your host. I'm Mary Ann Dersch of Courageous Communication. And today we're going to talk about turning curiosity into commitment. I just offered this webinar to my email, if you're not on my email list, or if you didn't get a chance to attend. This is sort of an abbreviated version of that session. And I'm so excited to share it with you. So what do we mean by curiosity to commitment? Well, let me just tell you that let's just start with the positioning here, which are donors are curious all the time. They come to events, they sign up for newsletters, they show up, they show an interest in our mission through, social media comments and shares and things like that. And that's telling us that we're curious. We often don't know how to turn that curiosity into commitment. And a lot of times organizations get stuck in the curiosity. What is the thing that the gap is the conversations, build trust, and inspire action. So what we're going to talk about is how to have the conversations that build trust and inspire action and get people to do what you want. So first of all, let's start with the reframe. Okay, we were taught a pack of lies. One of the pack of lies being, we have to pitch, sell, make a case, convince people to care. If you know anything about me and my work, number one is you don't get people to care. You can't get somebody to care about your cause. That's not what you do. That's not how it works. We can't make somebody care about our cause. What we can do is share our message, our mission, our vision to connect with like-minded people. And that is the way forward. When we try to pitch, convince, sell, cajole, whatever, push people, they just push back. Nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody wants to be told what they do or do not care about. Why somebody cares about your cause is not about your message or your website or anything else. What it is about is their lived experience, the things that have meaning for them, mostly rooted in childhood experiences, because that's what forms most of our personalities, and the way the lens which we view the world, right? And so we don't get people to care. We find like-minded people and invite them into our community. And before I go into the conversation, I want to just do a quick overview of the framework of this. When I say we invite people into the community, there's a specific 4-step process for doing that. The first is awareness. Second is interest. Third is connection. Fourth is action. Awareness is very simple. That means people know who you are. And you might not know who these people are, but they know who you are. They've heard of you. Oh, I've heard of them. Oh, yeah, I've heard of them. My friend does something with them. They know you, but the thing about awareness is, and spreading awareness is, you may not know them. So you may have all these sort of friends that you don't even know you have, because they know you, but then they have to like you. And that's interest. Interest is people like you. They have done something to include themselves in your orbit. They've come to an event. They've followed you on a social. They have signed up for your newsletter. Now, following you on a social isn't as impactful as it used to be because reach is really unreliable. That's why I love me an email list. The email list is really where you hold people and keep them loving and keep them together and keep them engaged in your cause, keep them interested, right? Keep them curious. And so the idea is, instead of pitching and pushing, I'm asking questions. I want to know what makes people curious. Right? So what stories do they like to hear about? What matters most to them? I want to know about them. And in my messaging, in my messages to my audience, to the people who are interested, I can ask a lot of questions. What moves you? What made you want to get involved with this cause? All kinds of questions that you can ask to make yourself curious, because curiosity leads to commitment. But stage three is connection. Connection is now a one-on-one. It's usually direct connection, small group or one-on-one. So the way that I move and our marketing and our fundraising is designed to move people from the next one to the next one to the next one. So I'm going to go from awareness to interest by maybe signing up for the newsletter or your email. I'm going to go from interest to connection by maybe doing a small group, a lunch and learn, a breakfast, a special session, a behind the scenes, whatever it is, to get people off the email list and in person somewhere. I do these monthly talks. And the reason I do them is that same thing. I'm trying to find people who are interested, who would like to have a deeper connection. I've done episodes about this before, so I'm not going to spend too much time about that today. But what I really do want to spend time today on is connection to action. So, and then how we have really meaningful conversations that move people to action. So, let's connection. All right. So let me start again. Connection without action just leaves donors circling, right? They just feel like they're kind of just like going around and around. And so I want to show you the methodology by which you can have somebody say yes to what you want in a way that they're moving to action, but in a way that feels good to them, that doesn't give you palpitations, that doesn't make them sweat, that you don't have to push them, because that doesn't work. Okay. We already know pushing, pitching, selling, it may work once, but if you want long-term loyal people, that's not how we do it. Now, I'm going to go through 3 simple rules of this, and I'm going to give you some bonus content at the end. Okay. 3 simple rules. The first is release the outcome. You have to let go of the result. The more you want something, the less likely you are to get it. I know it may sound crazy, but I'm going to tell you it's true. The more you want something, the less likely you are to get it. Why is that? Why do you think that is? When you are afraid you're going to not get something, then you are very invested and you're acting out of fear. Like, what if they don't? What if they don't? What if they don't? And that will cause you to then look at the person not from who they are, but what they can do for you or what they're willing to do for you. And so when we release the outcome, then we can see people for who they are, not who we want them to be. And also it makes us very open to new possibilities that we may not even have thought of, right? Like if we're going to go in and say, hey, you're going to meet with somebody and they want a sponsorship, but they were thinking of something else, but you never asked, so they never said anything. It can really limit a conversation when you're just tied to one agenda. That doesn't mean we have meandering conversations. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying internally, your job is to get into a position where whatever they say is okay. That can mean a lot of things. That can mean a lot of things. Okay. So that can mean, hey, let me think about it and get back to you. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. That can also mean, yes, and I need to like talk with some people about it. Okay. So, but the more likely I am, the more decision-making power I give somebody, the more likely they are to decide what I want. The more I release the outcome, the more I'm going to get what I want. I know but I can hold space for 2 things to be true. I'd love for something to happen and I'm okay either way. And not faking I'm okay, like really tapping into that it's fine. Whatever it's not going to work out. It is working out. Because if that person says no, remember, rejection is protection. So if that person, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. You can bless and release and move on to the next. We release what no longer serves us to make room for what does. We tend to get bogged down in these fantasy relationships where people are just afraid to say no. So the biggest way you can get somebody to say yes to you is to give them the opportunity to say no from the beginning. And that looks like this. Whatever you decide is totally okay. I just want you to feel good about what comes next. I want you to feel good about your gift. That's what's important to me. Whatever you decide is totally okay. I am giving you all the decision-making power. That means I really have to release the outcome. There's 3 questions you need to ask yourself. First is, am I okay with any outcome? Right, sorry. First question is, what would I love to have happen? It's okay to want something. Okay. I'm not saying it's okay. It's okay to want something. Am I okay with any outcome? And what's the next likely next step? I want to be clear in that in my head before I go into a situation. By releasing the outcome, that doesn't mean I'm going in blind. It means that I'm going in open to whatever can happen here. Because when I go in open, it allows more possibilities to emerge, or honesty, and it's not an or, it's an and honesty to emerge, where we can actually have an honest conversation. Is this a good idea or not? Would you like to invest in our organization or not? Either way is totally okay. So the secret here is people buy to the level they feel seen and heard. Your job is not to pitch or sell or convince. Your job is to listen. So that brings me to number 2, listen. It's not about pitching. It's not about a perfect script. It's not about having all the answers to all the questions, right? That is not it at all. What it's about is listening and understanding. I can't meet somebody's needs until I know what they are. So when I'm pitching, I'm just throwing ideas out there, seeing what resonates, right? When I'm listening for what the needs are so I can meet those needs. But I can't meet them unless I know what they are. It is so important to have conversations rooted in listening, rooted in the questions, the curiosity. This is curiosity to commitment. The quality of your conversations is not based on what you say, but the quality of the questions that you ask. So if I'm going to go into a conversation where I know the person or not, what do I want to ask them? What would I like to know? And also, I can be prepared to throw that out the window at any time because in the listening, there's something maybe they want to talk about. We tend to want to control these conversations because we think that's going to get us what we want. But the more we just relax and listen to understand and validate, wow, let me give you some examples. Wow, that sounds like that was really important to you. Wow, I'm so glad you shared that with me. I can only imagine how that was. Or, yeah, thank you so much. Like, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Sounds like, helping kids in foster care is really meaningful to you because you grew up with foster kids in your home and that was something your parents devoted to. And that's a natural extension of who you are. I can totally see that. Like, all I'm doing is validating. I know how great my organization is. They'll figure it out, but that's not why they're there. They're there because they have ideals and values, and they want to match their assets with their values. Okay, that's all I'm giving them the opportunity to do. So if their values, if what's in their philanthropic heart doesn't really align with my cause, that's okay. That's all right. I'm not going to change them, but by listening, I see what they value. We love people for who they are, not what they can do for us or how much they can give us. If you are making friends with somebody because they have money, that's manipulative. That's, deceitful. At best, manipulative at worst. I think they're both pretty bad. That's not a way we have a relationship. If you made friends with somebody because they had a boat, right? Okay, but hey, we are friends, and bonus, you have a boat. Okay, everybody wants a friend with a boat. No one wants to own a boat. Everybody wants a friend with a boat. Okay, so that's just how that's how we want to approach it. Is relationship first, money will follow. Align, authentic, honest, transparent relationships where we speak the truth in the moment. Now, let me go to 3, which is an opening, and then I'm going to talk about how to navigate some truths you may be afraid to say. Number 3 is find your opening. What does an opening mean? When I'm listening for a need that they have that my organization, might be able to meet. That need could be as simple as making a donation before the end of the year because of tax. Okay, I can help you with that. That need might be They are new in town and want to meet people. Maybe we could have somebody do something in somebody's house. They may want they run a company and are looking for team building activities. You do episodic volunteering. I don't know what your needs are until I'm listening, right? I'm curious. And here's some great questions. These are called ledges. They're really good questions to ask people to pull more out of them. Help me understand that. Tell me more about that. What makes you say that? What makes you ask that? Those are some really good questions. A lot of times people will ask you a question, but they don't, that's called a bid. They want to actually have a conversation about something and they're opening up what they want to talk about with a question. The question may be like, where, hey, and I'm just making this up because this is what's in the news right now. With SNAP benefits ending, what do you think is going to happen to the food bank that I am a donor of? And I would say, wow, that's a really great question. What makes you ask that? Well, I understand that it's coming up and I'm really nervous about what could happen. Like, yeah, that's great. Thank you for saying that. And that I may ask you, what do you foresee happening, or what do you as a donor feel like you would want to do to help with that? Notice I'm just going to keep asking questions because I want to get into what's in their head, what they're thinking. And if they're thinking, and maybe the person says, well, I could maybe do a fundraiser in my house. Do you think that would help to make up some of the shortfall? Yeah, absolutely. Tell me how you would like that to go. They're actually talking themselves into it without me having to ask anything, right? When you ask quality questions and people feel seen and heard, they're going to be like, this was amazing. How can I help? Tell me all about your program. They're going to be asking you. You don't have to pitch anything. They're going to be asking you. Okay, so now that we found the opening, and everybody feels seen, heard, and validated, and you found the opening, now we want to make an ask. So there's a couple of things that I want to share about this. First of all, release the outcome, right? You and we're not faking it. Like, your heart's not pounding, your mouth is saying whatever you decide is totally okay, but your heart is pounding. Like, truly be in the energetic, and it takes a little inner work to do that, and you can get there. And then if when you are getting ready to say, let me just say one thing. When you start to have these conversations, a lot of times we start with rapport and we get into rapport and chit chat and chit chat and chit chat. And then we get bogged down with that. And it's hard to redirect to the actual, what you want to talk about. So when you start a conversation, the first thing you want to do is limit the rapport. You want to say, hey, so great to meet you. I was so good to see you last week at the event. Glad we could get together. Yeah, me too. Sounds so great. Okay, well, listen, here's what I'd like to do today. And I want to immediately just lay out a framework for what I'd like to have happen in the conversation and then get into it. Because once you get bogged down in that, it's hard to move it to business. And also, all of that chit chat work is now in a framework of listening, right? It's not just rapport. Oh, yeah, I'm just listening to appease you. I'm listening because I really want to understand what your needs are. And if we could legitimately help you meet any of them, that's it. So when it comes time for the ask, when you are making, and I like to say making an offer, because when I'm making an offer, I'm making an offer because I know it benefits you and me, because I know you and your needs well enough to know that this is a good fit, or I wouldn't be asking. So I would say, would you consider a $10,000 sponsorship? Based on everything you said, sounds like a sponsorship might be a good fit. Do you agree? Yeah, okay, great. What would $10,000 sponsorship, how would you feel about that? You're going to lay it out there and you're going to let it land. You're just going to let it land and sit, right? And just lay there. How I do it is I take a drink. It's $6,000 for the training. How does that sound to you? And I take a big drink of Diet Coke because I don't want to say anything. I you you have to open up that space because we want to close that space because we're so afraid they're going to say no. Like, oh, I'll do it for half, or no, maybe you could just do the 5,000 because we're afraid there's an objection coming that we want to get in front of. So bite your lip, write something on a notebook, adjust your clothes, whatever it is, just form a habit, let it land, and let that emptiness sit there because they're not thinking about how they're going to reject you. They're thinking about what they want to do. So it takes a little bit of thought and you're just going to let it land and then see, they could say, yeah, I can't do that. Okay, that's all right. Well, what were you thinking? Okay. We're going to just navigate from there. When you ask, your whole body may be like, tell it you ask for 10, do it for 5, do it for 5. Like just let it land. Okay. Now, once you've gotten some feedback from that, because we can navigate from there. A not now isn't a no. This isn't a good time. There's time. Usually the two issues are timing and money. Is it the right time for them to give? What kind of money can they give? And the timing typically comes first. So if it's not now, that's fine. When would you like to speak again? And this could be the absolute game changer of your life if you could figure out, if you could have the courage to do this. If somebody says, well, let me think about it and get back to you, said, absolutely, I love that for you. Thank you for considering this. I think it'd be a great fit. And certainly your gift would be of use to our organization. Why don't you think about it? And why don't we talk next week and see and use this exact language where you're at in your decision-making process? Remember, the less I want it, the more likely I am to get it. The more decision-making power I give that person, the more likely they are to decide what I want. So it's all about them and their comfort, them being in control of the process. And if they say, yeah, that sounds great. Next Thursday works. Great. Put them on the calendar right then. You book the meeting in the meeting. You don't have to chase them, follow up later. Let me come back to you with dates. Everybody's sitting there with the calendar on their phone. Book the meeting in the meeting. All right. Once you get good at this, it's going to come so easy. The first time it may feel a little clunky. That's okay. Permission to be bad, to be good, to be good, to be great. I'm great at this. The people I coach and train are great at this. They are not doing endless follow-ups, circling back. Oh, just checking in, blah, blah, blah. Right? They're getting the deal done or they're moving on. That's just it. Let's move it forward or bless and release. I'm not a chaser. Okay. I'm not a chaser. I don't think you should be either. Chasing is desperation. You're the sovereign one. You have an amazing organization worthy of investment. If it's not for them, that's completely okay. Let's move on to the next one. Bless and release. God love you. And let me just tell you, if people feel seen and heard, they're going to be so much more likely to refer you on or to connect you with people that they think would be a good fit. The other thing I want to talk about is something called a micro commitment. So a micro commitment is when I'm asking permission to move the conversation forward as we're having it. So let's say we find an opening. I'm just going to use the sponsorship, an event sponsorship. Somebody would say, yeah, we're really looking for exposure to construction companies. And you work at Habitat for Humanity. Well, you got exposure to construction companies. Okay, all right. You say, I think we are really connected to construction companies because we build houses at Habitat. I'd love to share with you, maybe talk with you a little bit more about how maybe we could help you do that, connect you with more contractors or heads of construction companies. Um, would that be okay if we talked about that for a bit? And so I'm asking, would it be okay? Yeah. Okay. I think one of the best ways you might meet a lot of people is by attending this big fundraiser we have, or maybe even sponsoring it. Could I share a little bit about what that might look like to see if that might meet your need of connecting with heads of construction? Yeah, okay. Those are called micro commitments. So I'm moving people on, and I'm also conditioning them to say yes by giving them the opportunity to always say no. Because what happens is if I don't give the opportunity for people to say no, they're going to lie to me and say, just send something over in writing, or let me think about it and get back to you because they don't want to say no because I haven't given them permission to say no. I tell them whatever you decide is totally okay. It's fine. Right. Um, Setbacks, rejection, it's just part of doing business. The more you hear no, the more you are working and asking. And when you stop hearing no's, that means you stopped trying. So I know no's are hard to hear. I know it's despondent. And also, I have to remind myself this. I do this work too. It's just part of doing business. But remember, the more no's you hear, the more yeses you'll hear, because it is in itself a numbers game. But just being comfortable with releasing the outcome, you're like, and just moving on. Where we get trapped in is these fantasy relationships where somebody says, why don't you hit me up at the beginning of the year? And you're like, yeah, sure. And they're just trying to get rid of you, but they don't know how to say that. So you start contacting them at the beginning of the year and they're ignoring you. No one, there's not truth telling inside of this conversation. So when somebody says, why don't we get in touch at the beginning of the year? You say, absolutely. What does January 10th look like for you? Will you be in the office? Why don't we set up a quick call now? We'll just see how you're feeling. And whatever you decide is totally okay. Let's just put a check-in on the calendar for now. If you're serious about giving in 2026 and you want me to follow up in January, why don't we just put something on the calendar now and then we have it? If they hesitate to that, they're trying to say no. And you can say, listen, if this isn't for you, that's fine. No problem. I'd rather you just say that now. But if it is, why don't we put something on the calendar? And either way is okay with me. And most likely they'll put it on the calendar. I've done this. I had a call with somebody in January or maybe February, and she said, I really want to do your course, but I can't do it till July. I'm like, okay, let's have a call in June. I had a call in June. I enrolled her for July, but she was on my calendar. So I'd have to think about it. I didn't have to we just put a date. Just pick a date and put it down. You might have to move it, doesn't matter. Pick a date, put it down. Set the meeting in the meeting, stop the endless follow-ups. It's like airplanes circle in the airport, none of them can land. If that's how you're feeling, you got to start booking the meeting in the meeting. Also, just letting some people go because they probably lied to you and said they were interested when they weren't. They didn't mean to lie. They just didn't know how to speak the truth. But when we give people the opportunity, when we see them for who they are, when we have conversations that are about curiosity, rooted in listening, designed to love people for who they are and get to actually know the actual person, not their bank account, right? Then they feel seen and heard. And when they feel seen and heard, they're much more open to what we want to say. And that, again, is how you move people to action. It is about curiosity driving your questions, not pitching, selling, having a perfect script, all the answers. It's about being curious about who the person is, accepting who they are without judgment, and validating that. And then from that, deciding if it's a fit. If it's a fit, keep talking, book the next meeting. If it's not, bless and release with love. And that, my friends, is how you take somebody from commitment to action. Now, listen, I'm doing something very cool. If you're interested, there's a link in the show notes. You can always email me or book a call with me. I am doing 4-session coaching packages for $9.97. 1 session awareness, interest, connection, action. 4 sessions. We're going to walk through each one, get you all shored up, ready to go. Have that pathway just flowing with people into your organization. Be able to find new people, get them into your orbit, into your community, nurture them, and connect with them on a deeper level, and then move them to action. And we'll figure out where the breakdown, if there's breakdowns, and we're going to remedy that and make it a really smooth, clean pathway. If you're interested, just book a call. I like to have a call with folks so I make sure I'm good for you and you're good for me and we're all ready to go. And if it is great, if not, that's okay too. It's always good to connect. And that's it for me in this episode of The Influential Nonprofit.